these issues, as it relates to they're just so much more complicated than most people can discuss and talk about.
Caitlin Clark just got attacked by Jason Whitlock. Clark has been one of the brightest stars in the WNBA, captivating fans with her stellar performances and record-breaking stats. As the anticipated top pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, Clark's ability to dominate the court has made her a fan favorite. And for sports commentator Jason Whitlock, Clark's rise has been nothing short of remarkable. He's often been a vocal supporter, defending her against critics and praising her contributions to the game. But now, Whitlock's stance has taken an unexpected turn, leaving everyone asking what made him change his mind. Let's rewind a bit. Jason Whitlock has been a staunch defender of Caitlin Clark, applauding her impressive skills and arguing against those who question her place in the sport. Let's see what Jason has to say.
And I know this is a white woman writing this, but this level of blatant racism and stupidity, how did America's newspaper, there's no editor, there's nobody at USA Today say, hey man, this is insane.
Whitlock doesn't hold back when he addresses what he sees as blatant racism in the article that sparked this discussion. He's frustrated. How could such a racially charged argument make it past the editors of a major publication like USA Today? To Whitlock, this isn't just a case of poor judgment. It's a reflection of a deeper problem in the media. The notion that Caitlin Clark, a white athlete, is somehow less deserving of being the face of women's basketball simply because she doesn't match the racial makeup of past stars strikes him as absurd. In fact, he's been outspoken about the bias Clark faces because of her race. In one of his most talked about segments, Whitlock pushed back against narratives that suggest the future of women's basketball should only reflect its past, a past dominated by black athletes. He passionately argued that Clark's talent should be the focus, not her race. He even compared her situation to suggesting that a white golfer should replace Tiger Woods just because of golf's historical roots. Whitlock wasn't just defending Clark. He was fighting against what he saw as a racial bias in sports commentary.
Women's basketball needs faces of the future to be black. Enter Juju Watkins and Hannah Hidalgo. That's who the player at Notre Dame.
Specifically, Whitlock is challenging the notion that the future of women's basketball must be defined by race, spotlighting emerging talents like Juju Watkins and Hannah Hidalgo as the key players poised to lead the sport into the future. His comparison isn't meant to diminish the exceptional abilities of these young athletes. Instead, it raises a crucial question about whether the decision to choose who represents the sport is driven by race rather than genuine skill or merit. This debate ignites a significant discussion on whether we're truly honoring the sport's legacy or merely clinging to it out of a misguided sense of duty.
Then she goes on, with Caitlin Clark headed to the 2024 WNBA draft, where she's projected #1 overall. Watkins, the nation's leading scorer this season behind Clark, is positioned to become the face of women's basketball. She'll be joined by Notre Dame point guard Hannah Hidalgo, the other favorite. Not lost on any power brokers in the game, both of these players are black, and in a game built by black women, it matters that the faces of the future look like the faces of the past.
Clark is far more than just a skilled player. She's a game changer whose standout performances have left fans and analysts in awe. Meanwhile, we're also introduced to Juju Watkins, the nation's leading scorer, and Hannah Hidalgo, Notre Dame's dynamic point guard. These athletes are not only extraordinarily talented, but are also being positioned as the future of women's basketball, especially within a narrative that highlights their racial backgrounds. This shifts the conversation dramatically. In a sport historically enriched by black women, does it truly matter if the next generation of stars mirrors this legacy? Whitlock and his co-host wrestle with this idea, probing whether the focus on race might overshadow the sport's core essence, its celebration of talent, excitement, and skill.
Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and all the white men that built golf, it's important that Tiger Woods be replaced as the face of golf by a white person. They must look like the past. How is this being published? How is this woman welcome in the field of journalism? I just don't get it.
It's like suggesting that the PGA should find a white golfer to replace Tiger Woods just to keep the sport's historical narrative intact. Whitlock sees this as not only ridiculous, but also dangerous, as it prioritizes racial continuity over merit and talent. He's not just criticizing the article, he's calling out the media's complicity in promoting divisive narratives that don't do justice to the athletes or the sports they play.
There's this myth out here that, like in basketball, that it's a baby mama dominated league, and it's really not. That a lot of the top black players come from two-parent families because it takes two parents to shuttle kids to all these AAU tournaments and all the stuff they do during the summer. It's a group effort. It's a mom and dad effort.
Whitlock then talks about the social issues he believes are impacting black representation in top-level sports. But he's not merely reiterating familiar arguments about poverty, lack of resources, or systemic bias. Instead, he focuses on the often overlooked erosion of the black family structure as a critical factor. In his view, the stereotype of basketball as a sport dominated by single mothers is not only misleading, but harmful. Whitlock emphasizes that many leading black athletes come from stable, two-parent households where both parents play an active role in their children's growth and development. This solid support system is vital, particularly when navigating the intense world of competitive youth sports with its relentless AAU tournaments and specialized training. Without such support, Whitlock argues, fewer black athletes may rise to prominence, which could alter the racial composition of sports that have traditionally been dominated by black athletes. This perspective offers a sobering challenge to reconsider the deeper implications of social issues on the landscape of sports.
Have been relying on their talent. Oh, I'm 6'3", I'm 6'5", I'm this, and those aren't skill, and it's not attractive or it's not interesting to watch a big person play women's basketball because they're just not very skilled, and it's not a beautiful style of play, and it doesn't attract the kind of attention.
This leads to a broader debate about the future of sports like basketball. Will they remain predominantly black, or are we on the cusp of a demographic shift? Whitlock is skeptical that the current racial makeup of sports will remain static, especially in light of the societal changes affecting the black community. He's not just speculating, he's basing this on what he sees as a growing divide in access to the resources necessary for athletic success. While many white athletes benefit from stable, two-parent households that can afford to invest in their development, black athletes often have to rely more on raw talent. Whitlock suggests that as the importance of skill development continues to grow, we might see more white athletes rising to prominence in sports like basketball. This isn't about downplaying the talent of black athletes, but about recognizing that changing social dynamics could lead to shifts in who dominates certain sports. It's a complex issue, one that doesn't have easy answers, but requires us to think critically about the future of sports representation. But that was the old Whitlock. You will be surprised by hearing this.
Something that Whitlock took great issue with. The sports columnist took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to hit out at the no. One overall draft pick for letting her team down. They gotta quit making excuses for Caitlin Clark's turnovers, he wrote. It's sloppy and hurting her team.
In a twist that has left many puzzled, Whitlock recently shifted his tone entirely. After a tough game where Clark struggled with turnovers, averaging 5.6 per game, Whitlock's frustrations came to a head. Suddenly, his support for Clark seemed to evaporate, replaced by criticism. He took to social media, highlighting Clark's mistakes and questioning her impact on her team, the Indiana Fever. It was a stark departure from his previous praise, and fans were left wondering, what happened to make Whitlock turn so quickly? Whitlock's critique centers around Clark's turnover rate, which he now claims is detrimental to her team's performance. Despite her record-breaking assists and her ability to lead the league in several categories, Whitlock zeroed in on her turnovers as a serious flaw. His comments have sparked a heated debate about whether Clark's occasional mistakes outweigh her contributions. Is Whitlock being fair, or is this a case of tough love gone too far? What's interesting here is the suddenness of Whitlock's change of heart. One minute he's Clark's biggest supporter, the next he's her harshest critic. Could it be that Whitlock is seeing something others are missing? Or is he just being overly harsh on a young player, still finding her footing in the league? It's a question that has everyone talking. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates and analysis on the biggest stories in sports. And don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Whitlock was too harsh, or does he have a point? Let's get the conversation going.